Say what?
Hello and welcome back. It's time for Say What, where we hear from those connected to the industry about what's going on in our world of electrical apprenticeship. And yes, this includes topics you have suggested, so please keep those coming. I'm your host, Cindy Sandifer. The Electrical Training Alliance loves the EWMC, which is the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus, and we support their incredible work for our industry. At NTI last year, 2024, Sean Bagsby, the current EWMC president, and T. Albino, a member at large, participated on our mental health awareness panel, and they hosted a C group session about fostering a culture of inclusion in our industry. And it was fantastic. Today, my friend Deon Mayes, the EWMC treasurer, is joining us. Deon is passionate. He cares about people, our industry, and ensuring that we lift everyone up. I'm excited for you to meet Deon. So I want to talk about you, and then one day we'll talk about me.
My least favorite subject, but let's go.
I know. Well, guess what? There's no one that knows you better. So I'd like to. I don't know. Like you and I've had discussions. We've talked about stuff, but how did you get into the electrical industry? Like, where did it all start for you?
Completely by accident.
I love that.
Yeah, my trajectory was I was going to be the first in my family to graduate from college. I was a very good student, good athlete in high school. I don't look like it now, but I was.
What'd you play?
Played football, and then I did track and field. I didn't run because I was slow, but I did some field events, notably the shot put. And so right after high school, I actually applied to several colleges. I was accepted to a few. Chose to go to Occidental College here on the West Coast, which is a very prestigious college on the West Coast. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for me for reasons I won't go into. After a year, was not able to continue attending Occidental College. At that point, kind of in limbo, not really sure what I was going to do, right? Because my entire life there was this trajectory of, Deon's going to be the first person in our family to graduate from college. So at that point, just kind of out there soul searching, trying to figure out what I was going to do. Probably was homeless for a bit, couch surfing and things like that. And a friend of mine actually started doing this work, the sound and communications work, and he said, I think you'd be good at this. And that's where it started. He introduced me to the supervisor where he worked, and that's where it took off. Started off non-union. I did work non-union. I was working for a company called Spencer Communications. We were doing a lot of the Washington Mutual banks when Washington Mutual was big, before that whole thing collapsed. And I was on a job and with Angeles Electric, and one of the electricians kind of pulled me aside and says, well, why aren't you in the union? And I remember my response was, do unions even still exist? I've only read about them in my history books. And that was when he told me, well, no, I'm part of a union. And I said, well, I don't do electrical, I do this. And he says, no, we have a division. And he made the introduction, and that was that. I was within IBW less than a year later.
Oh my gosh. It's just like you said, like by chance, right? And I don't know if you felt, to me, I felt pressure when it's like, you'll be the first to graduate from college. Like, I don't know if you felt it or if you were putting it on yourself or if there was no pressure. But
I don't know if there was pressure. I think the pressure for me personally came when I didn't succeed, right? And, feeling as though you failed, right? You didn't, all these people have put all this behind you and then you didn't make it. And so that was tough for me. Growing up, there was always a lot of pressure. I'm the oldest in the family, single mom. My mom worked. So I was sort of the caretaker for my younger brothers, walked them home, feed them their snack, making sure they did their homework, made sure mom had dinner when she came home, things like that. So it just came natural. It wasn't a thing about feeling pressure. It was the situation. So again, for me, the pressure was really when I didn't succeed. That was tough. I'm not used to failing, and I'll tell people I hate losing more than I like winning.
That's it. That's an interesting concept. I think that's probably true of more of us than we realize.
My
Like
wife will tell
that's
you that is I hate losing. I'm a bad sport.
ooh. Okay. So I'm writing down notes like don't play cards with Deon, except that I'm horrible. So actually,
No,
maybe.
you probably beat me out of, the new person usually does the best when I play poker. The guy who's sitting there saying, I've never played this before. Well, what hand beats what? Normally they're the ones taking home all our money.
Okay. Well, I won't because I don't want to make you mad. Um, so you get introduced to the union. Did you go through apprenticeship? Did you like what
I
was
did.
your
I met with an organizer, Gus Alfaro. That was back in 2000, either 2000 or 2001. I think I took a test, had an interview, and at that time, he actually gave me the option. He said, I could either come in at something, I think they had a classification back then called a stepped installer, or I could come into the apprenticeship. And I actually made the decision to go through the apprenticeship because at that time, he did mention to me if I came in at the stepped installer, he was very honest with me. He said it may affect employment opportunities because I only had experience doing Cat 5 cabling at that time. And as he explained, hey, our installers install fire alarm, security, CCTV, fiber optics, all these things I had never touched. And so I made the decision to enter the apprenticeship. I entered that in 2001 as a 70% sound apprentice.
excellent? Excellent. Then you graduate and or complete. I don't know. Everybody says it different. So like completed apprenticeship, whatever.
Turned out 2.5 years later, I did receive a meritorious upgrade. So I was able to bypass my last semester of school. Made a journeyman. Immediately became a foreman out in the field. Soon after that, I had a kid, and me and my wife were sitting around and planning our future. And my wife is a educator by trade. Has a master's in education, and at that time, I had kind of hoped that she would be aspiring to be like a principal or something like that. But she made it clear, nope, she's going to be in the classroom. Don't want to do any administrative stuff. So I told her, well, I'll probably be the one that goes out and tries to find ways to put us in a better position financially. And that's when I applied to teach at the apprenticeship. Now, when I was an apprentice, every student in my class told me I would be at the front of the class one day. So I just decided to put in an application. I got a call a few weeks later from Jane Templin saying, hey, come on down. We're gonna bring you on board and start training. And that's how I started teaching. 10 years later, I was tapped on the shoulder again and asked to be the assistant training director by training director at the time, Brett Moss, who very thankful for him. When he actually brought me the opportunity, I thought he was joking. This is an inside wireman's organization, so I flat out told him, I said, how are you going to make this work? I mean, they're never going to approve me being the assistant training director. And his response was, let me worry about that. And he gave me a call back and said, hey, we'll go if you accept the position, it's yours. So that's how I started as the assistant training director.
I love that. So, like going back, it's like you weren't meant to and I understand what you meant by fail and losing and all of that, but it's like you weren't supposed to go to college. Do you know what I mean? Like this, like when I hear your story, it's like that was possibly like one of the biggest blessings that at that moment did not feel like it.
Right.
But you're teaching, right? You're helping other people, then you're helping run a program, to give futures to all these other individuals. And now what are you doing?
So now I tell people I'm on my 5th apprenticeship now. I resigned from the training center probably about 4 months ago. Kind of felt like it was time for a different challenge. Didn't know what that challenge would be at that time. Kind of took a leap of faith, bet on myself. And shortly into my time off, I decided to take some time off. I didn't look for work right away. Business manager Robert Corona reached out. He indicated to me at the time that they'd seen a lot of growth in our sound and communications unit, and he needed to add another representative, business rep, in order to make sure the members had, adequate representation, and asked me if I wanted the position. So I took that position, started the week after Labor Day.
Wow. So it's like bet on yourself. That like I'm taking that. I love to grab snippets from other people and I love like bet on yourself. I don't do that enough, right? And it's the all the things we've talked about, but like you have to do that, right? You have to believe in yourself, bet on yourself, and look how it turned out for you. Now here you are helping other people in sound and communication, something you've, clearly excelled at.
It's actually been very positive. I was very nervous. My primary source of that nervousness was going from a position that is traditionally not well liked. Although I don't know that I was disliked. I mean, there's generally distrust from apprentices to the administration at training centers. But I'll tell you, I go out on jobs and I'm recognized every job I go to, and it's been absolutely positive. People have been thankful. People have actually congratulated me, and I've actually had a lot of people say they were glad that Corona chose me. So it's been a very positive experience. Really loving the idea of just helping. A lot of the members they don't know the IBW structure well. They don't take the time to know it in some cases, but I've just had some really great experiences in the last 3 months that have made me feel like I made the right decision, and very thankful to Corona and his people for giving me the opportunity, just giving me the chance.
Right. And that connection, like what you're able to do, like you said, maybe some positions or situations where either that typically isn't well liked or it's seen as this separation, seen negatively, and to be able to create a different look, right? Like you've made it to where no, this doesn't have to be bad or this doesn't have to be contentious. We can actually help each other. I love that.
Yep.
I love that. And you do that naturally. I first met you and I probably didn't meet you. I probably like fangirled and was like, hi, I'm Cindy, because I like to do that at an EWMC conference. But seeing you there, I mean, to me, all the reasons why you would be a great instructor, assistant training director, business rep, like it's very clear to me, like watching you in your role with the EWMC. Again, that's the place I've seen you. It's just really clear why you're able to do what you do. So I'm curious how you found out about the EWMC through all of this like journey that you've been on.
That's another getting tapped on the shoulder type of thing. My introduction to the EWMC was through Eric Brown. And Eric Brown I met Eric Brown on a job site. I was having an issue on a job site. I think he was a rep at the time or an organizer. I'm not sure what his title was. He came out on the job to address that, and that was my initial meeting with Eric. And it was very brief, and he handled the situation. And the next time I saw Eric was at my graduation. And he actually sat at the table with me and my wife. So he was there. He saw me get recognized as the apprentice of the year at my graduation for the sound and communications class. And shortly after that was when he invited me as a delegate to my first EWMC conference. That was my introduction. That was it. He tapped me on the shoulder. He saw something in me and tapped me on the shoulder. And I think last year was my 18th or 19th consecutive EWMC conference.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. We're pausing because you skipped over apprentice of the year. Like you didn't say that earlier. So that's incredible. Right. You were the apprentice of the year?
Outstanding apprentice, whatever they called it. Yeah, whatever they called it. Yes. For the sound, they had one for each classification. For sound, yeah, I got it that year, and Eric was there and saw me get it, and I think he was kind of proud, to see, a young African American man up there getting recognized, and so I think that was sort of solidified our relationship, kind of, or started our relationship.
Yeah. It's a big deal regardless, right? To be that outstanding apprentice graduate is a big deal. And then to break barriers with it, is another, that's another accomplishment, if you will. It may not be what you meant to achieve, but you set set the stage, you broke ceilings, opened doors, however you want to say it, for other people. And that's huge. And last year, 2024 was the 50th conference, right, for the EWMC?
34th conference, 50th year of the organization's existence.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah, and that's such a big deal. And your role, I mean, you're not just attending conferences. I mean, you're super involved in the EWMC and have been for some time, right?
Yeah, I've served initially just a rank and file member in my chapter. At some point, Eric Brown was the chapter president, and at that time, I ran with him as his vice president. So I served as his vice president. He eventually moved out of that chapter president position. Initially, the plan was not for me to move into the president position, but he came back later and said, no, I think that's what we should do. So I served as chapter president, I want to say for 5 or 6 years. I finally, I'm personally not in the business of clogging these positions forever. In our chapter, we have a tradition of, hey, you do 2 or 3 terms and you turn it over. So I turned it over to the next person. Soon after that, there was an opening on the national board, and I applied for that and got it. Keith Edwards brought me on as an at-large member of the executive committee. And shortly after that, I did resign for a time to deal with some personal matters. And then I came back on the board sometime, I want to say it was either last year or late 2022. And then sometime last year, we had an appointment or a vacancy in the treasurer position, and the board agreed to promote me to that position.
Yeah. And you're still serving in that role.
And I'm still serving as a treasurer currently today.
Yes. I really love what you said about taking a break. You said, okay, I've got some personal matters, regardless of what they are, and to step back. And I think that's so important. Sometimes we're afraid to do that because it's like, I don't want to lose, momentum. I don't want to stop what I feel like I've gained, but to say, wait a minute, I've got to take that moment for me or for a family member or whatever it is. And I know you're really big on mental health and well-being and that sort of thing. So I think to me, that's something equally as important as anything else that you've accomplished.
Well, at the time, I'll be honest, my conversation with Keith at the time was, I don't know that I can be 100% effective unless I deal with these things. It wasn't about me at that time. The decision was about doing the right thing for the organization. Yes, it was important that I handle my stuff, but I didn't want to negatively impact EWMC because I knew I was going to have availability issues and things like that. And so that's really what it was about. It was about giving Keith the opportunity to put someone in a position that would be there, be reliable, because I knew I wouldn't be at that time.
Right. Which is, again, another thing, right? It's another moment where it's like, I've got to think about something. I've got to take care of myself, but I also have to think bigger than myself, right? And the impact that I'm going to have. I think it's just one of those things that it's a reminder for me. Let me just speak for myself. Like, it's a reminder for me, to kind of be able to see the big picture. Okay, what do I need? What's best for whatever it is, right? Organization, volunteer, work, family, you name it. Like, I think those are very valuable moments for us as individuals. All right. So what are you most excited about as far as our industry? And you and I have had conversations. We've been in meetings together where we talk about changes or things that we need to do for our culture in the industry. Like what is exciting to you that you see happening like on the horizon?
The thing I think I'm most excited about today is I'm starting to see that culture change, at least in the arena that I'm in. I'm starting to hear more people take the mental health crisis seriously. I was at a conference, our EWMC conference in Denver, and we had Dr. Dempsey do a plenary session. It was probably one of the most powerful moments I've ever seen at any conference I've ever attended. And there's a lot to talk about, and you're shaking your head because I know you were there and you experienced it. But the biggest thing that I took away from that, there were two things actually. Number one of the people that got up and broke down was somebody that I worked with every day. And to not know and see the pain that they had been in, back home, and doing their duties, really just threw me back. Like, how can I work next to this person every day? I talk to him every day, I see him every day, and not know that they were in pain. That was very impactful for me. The other thing that, and to this day I can't get it out of my head, was hearing Dr. Dempsey give the statistic that we have more people in construction dying from suicide and overdoses than we do from accidents. And as soon as I heard that, we have to start treating this as a safety issue. If we have more people dying from suicides and falling off ladders, we have to treat it as a safety issue. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Really glad to see, though, that we're starting to see some real traction in that direction. I got an email from the Training Alliance recently about the vital.org training. I think that's what it's called, vitalcog.org, where they're doing train the trainers on how to recognize someone who may be suicidal. That's the stuff that I think is very important, because in these situations, and again, you talked about my struggles personally, and I have had my own personal struggles. I've got family members direct that have personal struggles, but the biggest challenge is, how do you communicate to people, right? Many people are going to shy away from it, right? Even if they think someone is hurting, they won't have that conversation because it's, the taboo, and it's not a fun conversation to have. And a lot of people are nervous and they don't feel comfortable having that conversation. So they don't. And then there's people that are willing to have the conversation, but the language they use is not helpful, right? And so I think it's very important, and I'm glad to see that there are so many, and I'm hoping that this is going to be a national sort of campaign. But I know here in Local 11 it's been talked about. I was actually pulled into a committee of people who are discussing this here in Los Angeles about what we can do as a union to better, provide services and support for our members that are experiencing these issues. So that's what I'm most excited about, because to me that was the most dangerous thing. When I heard that, again, it threw me back, and it's like, how can we have that happening? And number one, I didn't hear about it till I came to this conference.
Yeah. And you've been been a part of the industry for how long? I mean, that, like you said,
And if people were falling off ladders, we'd have a campaign and hey, we got to make this a focus, and we're gonna put together a training, and we're gonna do ladder training. Okay, well, why aren't we doing it for this?
like, my God, that's one of those moments. Yeah. If we were having any of those, I like that you're using ladder, right? Because it seems simple, right? We're not even talking about dealing with electricity, and it's like, yeah, we would be going out of our way to make sure, OSHA would be all over it. Like, there would be all of this.
Yes, OSHA would be all over it. Training wise, we'd be getting people in OSHA classes and getting certifications, and there would be all these things that would be put into place. But because it's mental health, we don't see it as the same way we see it as people dying in accidents. A death is a death.
Exactly. And this idea, the whole person, right? We talk about that. I say it like probably every time I speak at any place, like even if it's one-on-one with someone, it's like, we have to look at that whole person, because making a great electrical worker, yeah, that's fantastic. We need that. But if that person isn't their best self, right?
Well, they're also a danger to others too. It's not just about that individual. If someone's on a construction site and their mind isn't on the work, they're not just a danger to themselves, they're a danger to others, they're a danger to other workers, they could be a danger to people in the public. I mean, I'm just glad that we're finally focused on that.
Yeah. And I think it goes into, like, we talk a lot about, like, say, bullying, harassment, racism, sexism, like, you can just go through this list of isms. And it all, to me, is related to mental health and well-being. When we talk about DEIB, like, that's what it is. It's all of this is combined into safety, and we have to focus on it.
Yeah, and my concern And my biggest concern now is with all the pushback we're seeing for DEI initiatives. I'm hopeful that IBW is going to be immune to that pressure.
I and I can't speak clearly, right, for IBW, NECA. I can speak some for the ETA, but just knowing that the task force that we created back in 2020, early 2021, we had a meeting last month and essentially discussed that is, and I've been reading, attending webinars and meetings and such to say, okay, how do you deal with it? Because I'm in this one particular group in these meetings where there's people, they're working in the federal level, and it's like they don't even know if they're gonna have a job because that's their primary focus. But yeah, these different, if you want to call them tactics, that's maybe the best way to say it, of how to deal with it. Do you call it DEIB still? Do you change the name? But the point is the work, right? Like that can't go away. It just can't. Not looking at mental health and mental well-being and these things that are happening. To your point, like it just, we can't. We can't stop this work, or what the EWMC does.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. I've heard a lot of people discuss this issue, and to my opinion, I've never seen anyone present it as well as General Bailey has. And I say that because this is one of those issues where I believe emotional arguments don't work. When I first heard General Bailey talk about DEI and B, he talked about it from a business standpoint, and he talked about it in terms of profit versus, basically he pointed out that companies and organizations that embrace different cultures, diversity, are more profitable. Simply put. That's the argument that needs to be made. That's the emotional arguments, the philosophical arguments. Again, those are where some people, we're never going to get them on board. We're just not. There are some people that are just diametrically opposed to this concept. So I think it's more about the business impact of these initiatives and these principles than it is about and I'm not saying that, we shouldn't do things because they're the right thing to do, but how are we going to best get the message out there? I've never heard anyone put it the way that General Bailey did. And so I think hopefully there's a lesson in that, because I wasn't even aware of that information when he presented it.
I might have heard either the same presentation or at least one similar, and I'm a huge fan of him. Just a great person. But I've heard him, and he really leads with leadership. And like you said, this business case, and I'm not your data person, right? I am the person that's like the feeling and all that, but I do recognize, that works for some people, but you've got to be able to present the numbers. You've got to be able to say, hey, here's the business case, or here's the legal case. Like, if you don't do this, if you're not watching what's going on the job site, in the training center, at the local union, you could be out a lot of money, right? If this turns into a legal court case.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons. Yes, for a lot of different reasons. We could go on forever talking about the different reasons why those stats are true. But I also want to give NECA credit. They could have softballed that. They could have softballed that appointment, and they brought in one of the highest-ranking Marines in the nation, and that was his charge. And so, to me, that told me that NECA was serious about it. Right? They didn't bring in, and I'm not talking negatively about someone coming out of college, but they didn't bring in someone right out of college with no experience. They brought in somebody who was a leader of men and women in battle, who had achieved one of the highest ranks in the U.S. military, and they tasked him with this. I think they should be commended for that. That was to me, that sent a statement, and it should have sent a message to everybody around the country.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't have said it better. And he's about unity. He's not coming with any kind of industry baggage. He's coming to do this work. Like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And he's wanting to work across all aisles, if you will, all boards, whatever. And you're so right about that. It's huge. It's a huge thing. and he's quite fun and enjoyable too. So that just makes it all the better. Like, I know at the EWMC conference, I watched him, he was on the dance floor and I said, man, like, cause you see him present or in these certain positions and you may not see that side of him, but he just knows how to be human, even with that. Yeah.
Great person. Every time I see him, he gives me a big hug, and I'm always surprised he remembers me. When people on those levels, and that's always very, it's humbling. But no, he's a down to earth individual, but he's not afraid to get in there and get dirty and do the work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And when he talks, people listen.
That. And you got to have that. You have to have that. You're very memorable, though. I'm just going to say, like, I know why he remembers you. You do a lot. And you stand out and you stand up, and that's huge. What would you say to anybody listening, like, as far as supporting, particularly the EWMC? Like, what would you suggest, like, how to support the EWMC, its efforts? Like, what would you recommend?
How could viewers support EWMC? Just, I would say, reach out if you're interested, see if there is a chapter in your area, right? And if there's a chapter in your area, ask how you can join and be a part of that. Talk to your local chapter president. If there is no chapter in your area and you feel the need for a chapter in your area, or, reach out to the national and we'll help you get one going. I think that's just be there, just get in the fight. And you don't have to be Black, brown, Latino. It's any IBEW member, right? Any IBEW member is allowed to be a member of EWMC, and we welcome everyone. In our opinion, if you're in a labor organization, you're a minority anyway.
I've never thought about that, right? Like you said, you thought when somebody said union to you, you're like, yeah, that's in my history book.
Yeah, what is it, 13% of the country? If that high are union workers? I forget the stat, but it's not very high. So we're all minorities as part of IBEW.
And I'll tell you, and this is experience talking, like as far as being welcomed to the EWMC, it is. I know you all call it the hugging conference. There's all these different things.
I wasn't aware of that, but okay.
I heard Keith say it. Keith Edwards was like something. He's like, yeah, we're the hugging conference because it's just. But there's so much love and acceptance. So I think you're right. It's like anybody's welcome. This is not. It's not just for one. It's for all.
Yeah, it's for everyone. So that's what I would say. Just get involved. Ask some questions. We have 44 chapters around the country, I believe. So just start asking some questions. Hey, do we have a chapter? And if so, when do you meet? And just show up, see if you like it, right? It doesn't cost you anything.
Right. But if you can get to a conference, my goodness, like that's always my plug, like go to a conference because it's a whole different type of experience and an amazing way to start the year.
My annual flu shot, I call it.
Oh, stealing. I like to steal. I'm stealing that. That is fantastic. Deon, thank you. Thank you for your time. God, your passion, your commitment, your energy, like all that your heart. I'm just really grateful for everything you do. And thank you for taking time to share yourself with us. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but like I said, I couldn't say no to Cindy. But Cindy, I really appreciate everything that you've done in humanizing the Training Alliance to some extent, and for the support that you've shown EWMC as an organization. We really appreciate it. Getting us involved in NTI, that was big. We'd like to continue to be a part of NTI, and we hope that the Training Alliance will continue to be involved in our conference.
All of that. And, if you can't say no, let's go ahead and talk NTI 2025 off camera and off, audio. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we can do that. Definitely.
Okay. Thank you. So I say it often. I love learning about each other. I love making those connections. I love when our stories seem to kind of overlap. And then also when we hear something about an individual that we didn't know before. And so today that happened for me. Chatting with Deon, learning more about him was incredible. So Deon, thank you for taking time out of your day to share yourself with us. Big thanks to you, the listeners, for always taking time to join us. Remember that we want to hear from you. We want you to participate in Say What. If there's topics that you would like us to cover, send us an email, saywhat, SAYWATT, at electricaltrainingalliance.org. Our next episode will drop in March. Until then, you can stay connected with us through our newsletters, blog posts. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to this podcast. Tell somebody about it. Stay powered up, and we will see you next time.
Say what?